Did I mention by any chance that I was...
in Texas.
That's right.
And that's why
Wow, that almost sounded professional.
Don't worry, it was just Providence. This
Blind
is
monkey
Wretched
finding
Radio.
a sandwich in the squirrel.
down in
Wait.
I have to confess, I just learned that's George Strait. I never
It
knew who
is.
the fellow was. I know that he's like the king of country.
He was terrific.
Okay, I didn't know any of his stuff. I just have never really followed country.
Great,
Oh,
you've
boy.
killed Tony.
You know, when I think country music, I think Princeton, Minnesota, the heart of country music where you live.
We'll come down there with a baby seal. And
There was
club
when
you.
we were at the Minnesota State Fair recently. There was a new country station. It was like Belt Buckle 94.7 or something, whatever
Buzzin'.
it was. What is it called?
Buzzin' Country.
Buzzin' Country.
Yeah, they're basically taking K102 head on. So.
I see. Yeah, that's
Because
right.
Bob did so well.
Too. That's right. Well, there's
Bob is
different genres of country music,
There
don't you
are.
know? The contemporary stuff, frankly, it sounds just like the pop stuff. Well,
Yeah,
sort of. That's
that's-
gotten off
From
the rails.
20
but
years
it's a little,
ago.
It's a little poppier.
We don't like the contemporary. We like the country. George Strait, carry on.
You mean George Strait? Okay.
Exactly.
You got it.
she forgot I'm the man.
Was just in
And
Texas.
Allison's in Galveston.
Had a wonderful, truly wonderful time. Kind of miss it, frankly.
Galveston would actually be Glenn Campbell.
It's very what?
Galveston was actually Glenn Campbell. You don't remember
Yes,
that either, do
Galveston was Glenn Campbell. We were talking about George Strait.
But you were in
I'm
Galveston.
not sure how Glenn got involved in this
you? You're in
conversation.
Galveston, weren't you?
Oh, Galveston? Yeah.
You just said you're in Galveston, so
Oh, Galveston.
I'll just sit here quietly now for the remainder of the show.
You asked for it. You
And I
got
won't,
it.
but go ahead.
Would like to share with you what I learned there from 19 very sharp young people. On Friday night, the lovely couple who was hosting us, they invited some of the youth. Now, these were all college students and above. Their newly married group that they lead every single week. And we sat around chatting. And I had some questions for them because I continue to see statistic after statistic, article after article, reminding us that the world is blue. I don't mean foul and potty mouth. I mean they are sad. For instance, CoreChristianity.com. Why won't my feelings of emptiness just disappear? I could cite a million of these. So my question for the young people is why? Why are millennials killing themselves more depressed at higher rates than any other demographic? Why? Well, they gave me some answers, and I'd like to share them with you so that if you hear something than this, it might actually help you to understand why somebody you know and love is depressed, perhaps suicidal, but also so that you can maybe adjust some things that you're doing or what your church is potentially doing. So in no particular order, here was the response of 19, and I'm telling you, these young people were sharp. They all had degrees I can't even pronounce. It was petroleum engineering. I didn't know there was such a thing, but apparently there is. Lawyers and nurses and sharp.
Oh, my.
And I said, so why do you think your demographic is killing themselves? Number 2 cause of death amongst millennials, suicide. They said the following. Technology, wrong word, Todd. Technology was the number 1 thing that came up. And we've heard about this, haven't we? That there's a connection to technology and loneliness, sadness, depression, and suicide. Technology isn't a relationship. Technology is transmitting information, but it is not one-on-one. I'll tell you, when we flew back from Texas, I think I mentioned to you that I was just in Texas. We were actually on the plane with the Kentucky Marching Band. They were pretty sedate because, well, they lost. And so we were on the plane with them, and I was watching these young people as they're coming and going dressed in blue, all plugged in. All got their ears in, listening to whatever it is that they choose. I think that is even a problem for us, to be constantly programming our own world, even when we're out in public. I get it. You want to hear the music that you want to hear, but consider that if you're not listening together to the music that's coming out of the speakers on the ceiling, you're just being an individual. You are alone. You are an island. And I think that is how young people are feeling. Alone. Even though they've got Facebook friends, they feel alone. That there's a disconnect between social media and reality. We've heard that, haven't we? What I see on the internet, what I see going on in other people's lives, that's not my world. And I'm sad about it. No hope, no purpose. Meaningless. Life is meaningless. Because this group of young people, and we've heard this before, this obviously is a broad brush, but sometimes stereotypes can actually exist because, well, there's some truth to it. This is a generation that wants to serve. They want to do something. They want to do things. We've heard that many, many times. But these young people brought out, here's the problem. They've got nothing to really live for. Nothing to really do of any consequence, any significance. Furthermore, university students separated from families. There's a feeling of loneliness, that they are out there by themselves, and, well, to a degree they are, which is why I think every Christian university student should be a member of a local church near the campus, so that you aren't separated from the family of God. I thought this was fascinating. People run off to the university. They commit all the sins that they weren't supposed to. They do all the things that mom and dad warned them about, and they're miserable. It did not deliver on what they thought it would. They bought the world's lies. They didn't believe the truth from their parents. They did it. They're unhappy. No sin so affects the body like fornication. And they're fornicating all over the place in a hookup culture. No commitment. No I do. Just consent. Okay, you can do this, you can't do that. But then you finish and you're on your way and you perhaps never see the person again, even on the same campus. That's going to leave you kind of blue. I thought it was fascinating that somebody brought up this is a life issue, because she said, she was the nurse actually, relatively newly married, stated that because most people on university campuses, they will admit to you, yeah, it's a human being inside of a mother's womb. It's a human being. But there are circumstances where you can kill it. That's a low view of life. Is it much of a leap to take your own life? If you've readily admitted, yeah, we're okay with taking the lives of others, even our helpless little children. This was fascinating to me from the young people in Texas. College is like, you better go to a good school, you better get a good diploma, and you better get good grades. This was something Mrs. Friel and I, interestingly enough, were talking about, I think, that very day when I sat down with these young people in College Station. That high school counselor, we were driving by. Yep, it was that day, because we were driving by a tech school, and we noticed the parking lot wasn't very full. And we commented, what a shame that there aren't more young people going to study welding and HVAC, working with their hands. And Mrs. Friel said, that's probably because counselors, no, you don't want to do that. You need to go off and get a college education if you really want to be successful. Well, that's nonsense. But an individual at this group meeting said, that's exactly the feeling we get. There are many of us who would like to be working with our hands, but we don't because we're told that that's lowly and not good. Why else are young people depressed? High expectations from family and social media. You can be what you want to be. They suddenly learn, well, that's a lie. Evolution. I asked, does that play a role in it? You know, you're nothing but primordial ooze. You're just lucky. That's all. And they all nodded their head, yes. Daycare, another issue, was made very clear that people have grown up being put in daycare and they're unhappy because of it. because of working moms, broken homes, detached parents, having to become an adult too early. Depression, furthermore, they say is considered acceptable because it's just a chemical thing. You know, it's like a disease, like alcoholism. And so it's not your fault, so it's okay. Pornography, because they're so filled with shame from looking at it all the time. Have guilt and shame with no forgiveness or anchor. They're wanting love and fulfillment. They're not finding it anywhere. They're realizing that porn, drugs, and hooking up don't bring no satisfaction. Sort of reminds me of the book of Ecclesiastes, doesn't it? How true, said the wisest man in the world. Vanity, vanity, all is vanity, until you get to the end of the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verses 13 and 14. Unless you're doing things for the Lord, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. It seems to me that old book is more relevant perhaps than it has ever been. And perhaps those are things that will help you to perhaps stave off some of the depression and suicide in your sphere of influence. Thank you, young people, for the lesson. Until tomorrow, this is Wretched Radio.